From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, it's a really, really long one. Sorry, question mark? Corey takes us on a journey through all the perspectives and moving parts to assessing this program. Hoops dominates in Luke Loucks' opener. And we got 30 minutes talking Clemson with Larry Williams of Tiger Illustrated. Let their pain brighten your day. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com works faster and longer due to the nutrients and vitamins and the 260 milligrams of all-natural caffeine that synergistically are formulated to deliver energy with benefits. Give it a shot. Try it out. Go to VitaminEnergy.com. Use the promo code warchantbogo. Warchant, B-O-G-O. Buy one, get one free. Noles behind the operation. Show some love. By the way, I wonder, Corey, how many times I haven't said the exact same thing verbatim about Vitamin Energy, but I have found the unlimited amount of combinations of things to talk about when it comes to Vitamin Energy without completely verbatim repeating myself. I want some respect. Put some respect on my name out there, everybody. That's all.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, hey, I'm not sure what precipitated that, but well said.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that. Like it's
Okay.
you know, it's an art to do this. It's an art to sell the product. But anyways, warchant.com is the ultimate Seminole sports source. Come on home. $1 for a week and a year subscription to The Athletic. Yeah, that's right. The whole On3 network and a subscription to The Athletic. $1 for a week. What are you waiting for, everybody? The momentum is building. Hop on it right now. As my friend who's a Jets fan says, if you weren't with us with the rebuild, then don't be with us for the rebuild. So
Right. Yeah.
come aboard. Corey Clark here, everybody, fresh off of yesterday's showing on Seminole Headlines. And you were at the Hoops game too, right? We'll talk about Hoops later on in the program. But I got to ask what happened on Headlines. But first, I got to ask, how are you, Corey Clark?
I am great, Aslan. Thank you so much for asking. I am doing well. Thank you.
Okay. I had some weird random question I wanted to ask you to start off the show with today, and it totally escaped my mind. It was actually going to be somewhat funny, I promise everybody. Maybe it'll come to me at some point later in the program, and I'll just save it for tomorrow, and I'll write it down on a piece of paper.
There you go. Good work.
What do you guys talk about? What was the feeling on Headlines of the three of you working off each other? Is it Wake Forest game? There's something there. Is it Clemson game is going to be the indicator, or is it kind of what we've been talking about here the last few shows, Corey? All three of you guys kind of, man, it's going to be week to week. Like, it's going to feel good when they win. If they lose, it's going to be like, it's going to be tough. What was the consensus of the three best dudes on the beat?
Yeah, I think it's what we've been talking about here. You know, Jeff obviously wanted him fired last year, but understands why he wasn't. We're all at the point where, like, you know, Jeff wants him fired even if they went out. I am not there with that, just because I think, well, I've gone over it. But the finances and all that, you would save yourself probably in the neighborhood of $25 million when you think $30 million maybe if you just run it back for one more year. But sometimes it's untenable. And 5-7, which is really 3-7, is untenable to me. If you get to 7-5, I think it's a conversation. Was kind of my overarching point, my thought. If you get to 7-5 now after going 2-10, it's like, well, you know, you improved it by 5 games. It is a better team. If you look at all the metrics and where they stand in the country, it is a top 30-ish type program right now through 8 games. Like FBI has them at 26th, or maybe the FPI has them at 26th. FEI has them at 24th. But they're in the neighborhood, not record-wise, and that's all that matters. We get it. But the way they played, they are in the neighborhood of a top 25, top 30 team. But they aren't, because they find ways to lose games. And so basically, you could understand how the administration, if he wins enough games, I would guess if he wins 3 games in November, I think he's definitely back. I could be wrong, because that means he's beating Clemson or Florida or both, to go along with a win over Alabama, to go along with coming off a 2-10 season. And the fact that you do have some young guys on this roster that you're pretty excited about, I think that would be case to run it back. But short of that, and Jeff does not want that to happen. I think me and Ira kind of understand. Well, Jeff does too. He just doesn't want it to happen. It seems like it's delaying the inevitable. But my push, it's also delaying Florida State's chances to be elite again. Like every year, in Jeff Norvell's eyes, in Jeff Cameron's eyes, and honestly in a lot of people's eyes, the longer Mike Norvell is here, the longer it's going to take for you to get to elite status, because you've got to go find somebody better than this. And that's an understandable viewpoint. An understandable viewpoint. I am not of the opinion that he can't produce an elite team. I'm not of the opinion of that. And I don't think it's just completely not going to happen at Florida State again, because you can't, once you fall into a ditch, you can't rebuild it. Those days are over. It's 2020. It's almost 2026. College football is weird. There's no way to predict what can and can't happen anymore, even if this has been on his watch. That said, you don't get to just lose in perpetuity and keep your job. It's a results-oriented business. So that's basically where we came to. Right. Let me ask you this, though, Aslan, because this is what I asked them. Let's say he goes 7-5, or say he goes 6-6.
He's out of here.
But is he fired? Is he fired because you don't think personally, you're
right.
Don't think that, and I'm just asking you, that he can't put together a top 12 football team at Florida State? Or is it punitive because he doesn't deserve to be the coach anymore?
Yeah, it was punitive, man. There's only 10, 15 of jobs of this caliber. You haven't shown that you're one of the 10 best coaches probably in the country. So I would try to find somebody that might be able to figure it out here. So it would be much more punitive than he can identify. And again, I don't know that I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. We all know that Keon Coleman was going to be good. You and I had a pretty good hunch that Braden Fisk was going to be really good. Everybody thought Jared Verse was going to be good. So when he says I know how it looks, it's do you though, man? What you know is good is obvious to anybody that's watched football for 4 to 5 years of their adult life. But in this current atmosphere, this landscape, even if he's given top 5 NIL money, will he be able to evaluate and bring in guys that are a top 5 caliber class that's going to perform like a top 12 team? I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility at all, but I just don't find it very likely given his track record.
Yeah, and I think as we talked about on the show, he's going to, if and when he gets fired, everybody, including him, I hope, will point to the lack of success on the recruiting trail. Literally, I don't know. I think Azarie and Josh Farmer are the only 2 of his recruits in 6 years that were NFL draft picks. They were his guys that he brought in. I could be missing someone, but I think that's it. Everybody else was portal guys, and credit to him for being on that train earlier than everyone else. Yes. That's how he got a Jared Verse and a Keon Coleman and a Braden Fisk and a Jamie Robinson and even a Jermaine Johnson and on and on and on. He did great on that front. But you don't sustain like that. You don't build elite programs like that. You can put together an elite team, especially if you have a really good quarterback. But that was his biggest mistake. And what I wonder about is because, it wasn't just Verse and Braden Fisk. They went and got Tatum Bethune, and we talked about him on the show. That dude had 16 tackles in the Giants win the other night. The week before, he had 14 tackles. He's got 50 tackles in the last 4 games for the 49ers. Tatum Bethune.
That's right.
An afterthought. We don't ever talk about him on that defense. He was a very good college football player that had some great moments at Florida State, including a huge interception in the ACC championship game. So he identified that,
but that was Randy Shannon,
recruit
man. That was Randy Shannon's guy. Randy Shannon they had the experience and relationship dating back to UCF. But
but you do get credit. It was your program. You allowed him to bring it. I know it's not like you had a lot to choose from, but he brought Tatum Bethune in. So I don't want to sparse it that fine, because it's his program. He brought them in. The problem is he brought in those other guys too, and I think when you look at what he did at Memphis. Clearly he can coach, right? Clearly he can coach. Clearly he can build I do think he can build the culture the right way. I think he gets guys that believe in him, that will practice hard for him, show up, play hard for him. As I keep saying to death, I don't think he gets good enough players, and I think that goes back to, he was at Arizona State and Memphis, and somewhere else maybe. I think that's it. Was he at Pitt? He wasn't at Pitt.
He was at
Tulsa.
1 year. He was at Pitt for 1 year. Yeah.
and at Tulsa. He just hasn't been around this. And by year 5 or year 6, I get it, man. You got to learn. You got to learn some. And he didn't have any connections to the state of Florida, so he wasn't going to recruit at a high level immediately. But by year 5 or 6, your name should be ringing out. You're at Florida State. You've won an ACC championship. You went undefeated not that long ago, and still, it seems like it's lacking on that front. It is not an elite. He is not an elite recruiter. And at Florida State, you can win without being an elite recruiter, but you have to be really, really good in the portal. You have to get a little lucky, and it's just not this hard to bring in elite talent to Florida State. And I think that's what we look at if and when it ends. It wasn't that he's not a great X's and O's guy, or he went for it on fourth down too much, or he didn't hire good coaches. At the end of the day, he just didn't bring in enough talent. And that's his own talent, homegrown talent. And that's all on him because the portal is fickle. Sometimes you can get in there and do good things. Sometimes you don't know if they care when you bring them in. That's why you want guys that have been here 2 or 3 years that are bought in. And he didn't have many of them. So that's where it ends up.
Yeah, man, off a 13-1, 13-0 ACC championship winning team, the 3 best recruits from a class that ranked 12th currently as we sit here and talk are probably Landon Thomas, Amari Williams, and Mekhi Danzy. Which is not bad, but it's 3 guys. Llewayne McCoy's in there. Elijah Moore is yet to, blossom quickly. Cam Davis, Kai Bates hasn't played a lot. Jamari Howard was banged up. Charles Lester is getting some kind of spot duty. Croman Hawk, but Croman Hawk and Charles Lester were huge recruits. I mean, Croman Hawk was 26th in the nation. Lester was 105. Man, Jamari Howard was 60th.
Who was?
Jamari Howard was actually the 60th overall recruit coming out of New Orleans.
But none of them have done anything.
Correct. Cool.
They haven't. His 3 best guys haven't done anything.
Selling
Danzy
again,
obviously
coming off 19 straight wins, right? Like that's.
And also look at Danzy. Like out of that group, obviously Danzy is the guy, right? He's the best one. He's a local kid. Would you have gotten him if he was from Boca?
Yeah.
You got him because he's from Tallahassee. So that's the issue with where he is. But I will say, like, if you give him players, I don't think either one of us doubt that he could go on another run and win a lot of games. I don't know that Brent Key is a genius. I don't know that Tony Elliott is a genius. You give guys good players, and I don't even think they have as good of players as Florida State. They have better. I think they probably have better quarterbacks than Florida State. But you get there's dozens upon dozens of coaches that if you give them this is rude, but it's the truth, man. If you give them the 2023 roster, they were going to win a bunch of games.
And that schedule, yeah,
they were going to win a bunch of games. I mentioned on headlines, Tatum Bethune's a starter in the NFL. Renardo Green is a starter in the NFL. Jarian Jones, I think, is a starter. If not, he's the nickelback. He plays a ton. Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, starters. Ryan Fitzgerald, starting kicker. Keon Coleman, starter. Like, that team was loaded.
Trey Benson was starting for a minute there.
Azarie Thomas starts for the Jets now because they traded Sauce Gardner. I think he'd started before that anyway. Josh Farmer plays for the Patriots as a rookie.
Really good Patriots squad, apparently, too.
Yeah, apparently they're back. Awesome. I think you look at that team, you had 9. Trey Benson would have been a starter. He got hurt. That one team, had like 10 NFL starters on it. And that doesn't include the quarterback.
Right.
That was a really, really good team. He gets credit for putting it together. But does he? You know what I mean? Like, does he? Does he? Like, Jordan Travis fell into his lap, or he fell on Jordan Travis's lap, however you want to put it. Jordan Travis was here before him. But, like,
Benson and Johnny Wilson, that was rolling dice. I mean, Trey Benson was hurt. Johnny Wilson was just, had problems catching the ball, holding on to the ball.
No, I don't mean like he doesn't get credit for his personality bringing him here, his belief in them bringing here. He did see those guys. That does say something. He was the first to call Johnny Wilson. That does matter. Trey Benson had done nothing. But I don't know that he had like a relationship with those guys.
Oh, right, correct, yeah.
Beforehand, and was like, you remember how hard I recruited you 3 years? I want you now. Like, I don't think it was like that, man. And
there
and
might
I
have been
think
with
it was
Benson, but I don't think Johnny was, because Benson was from Mississippi, and when he was at Memphis, he might have known about Trey Benson.
Oh,
in high
and did he
school,
know
maybe.
Pittman? Did he know Micah Pittman? I don't remember that story either.
So. I don't think so.
But or Fabian Lovett. Like, I don't know if he had a history with these guys, the guys that came in really early, or Jarian or Jermaine Jones. Like, I think Florida State sold it. Like, you could come play for Florida State and you could play quickly.
Yep.
We need help. This guy's an energetic guy. He seems like a good dude. Everybody swears by him. Let me go play for him. He's not going and getting the 18-year-olds. He's just not getting them at the rate you need to at Florida State. But as I keep reiterating, and I don't do it just to play the other side of it, it's the truth. This recruiting class with this coaching staff is worlds better than anything they brought in before. And that was with like 11 days or 7 days to put together a class as an entity, as a staff. Maybe these guys, even though every day it's another 3-star they're getting, nobody's doing cartwheels over this, but they are getting commitments. Maybe they're seeing some stuff in these guys too, and this class will be as good or better than the last class. Well, now you're stacking on some stuff, and there is reason to believe they're getting better players with this staff. But I think it's the staff. I don't think it's him. But I guess that's not fair. But either way,
I think they have the Desires, not to be devil's advocate for him, for a $50 million guy. But, I mean, the Desir twins, I think, were committed to him before the changes. So he's got that. Yes, that's true. But I don't think they would have played if Tony White and Terrence Knighton didn't show up. Fair.
If he'd have run it back with the same coaches, I just don't have trust that Mike Norvell was going to dictate or demand that the Desir guys get on the field. Even though they're not ready, I want guys that play that hard and are that physical. I don't think that was – but that's not fair. And, again, that's picking nits. There's a lot bigger nits to pick than Desir's. But, yeah, so – but the point of all that is I think if some of these players come back, and if this coaching staff comes back intact after a 6-6, 7-5, obviously I think 8-4, there's no chance he's fired. 6-6, 7-5, I think it's a conversation, a real one. But if they all come back, this recruiting class stays intact, all the freshmen off this year's team stay, you get these guys on offense to stay, you feel not terrible about the direction of the program. You don't. But what you wonder about is it already too far gone in the people that matter's eyes because of the 24 season? Like, again, if you just erase that out of your memory and it was just 23 to 25 and 24 didn't happen, and like, okay, well, this is a weird step back, but they've shown some signs. They got some life. They got some young guys that can play. They're competitive. They've gotten a little bit unlucky. You just don't get the benefit of the doubt after the disaster of 24. And that was his team, and that was on his watch. So he's still being punished in 2025 for what happened in 2024. But that's life.
Yeah, so if it ends up being, you talked about 7-5 as a conversation. So would your conversation be there's enough confidence he can create a top 12 team, or would it be, punitive and like, hey, man, that's, this is just too much, man. 15 losses, 2 seasons, just unacceptable.
Yeah, 15 losses in 2 seasons. Whatever your record is against real teams is like 7-15 at that point. Yes, it's like, okay, he doesn't deserve to be the coach anymore. He had the reins, he had it rolling, and then he fell off a cliff. I don't trust that he can do it again. I don't trust that he knows what he's doing. Legitimately. Yeah. Like, I don't trust, even if we gave him, saved this money and put it into resources and roster, that he's going to get this team good enough to get where we want to go. And the longer he's here, the farther we are from what our goals are at Florida State. And so stop it now. Don't give him another year, because that's another year delayed from where this program needs to go. So I think those are the conversations. The flip side of that is, look, man, they did go 7-5 after going 2-10. You see what happened in the Pitt and Virginia, and let's just use Pitt and Virginia. Very easily winnable games. The Stanford game, I mean, they could have won that game. They were an inch away. They were in the end zone, but it's also Stanford. You don't get credit for almost beating Stanford. But the Pitt and Virginia games could have gone either way. And then you're looking at a 9-3 season. And if you want to view it from that lens, you could be like, I did see a lot of growth. I did see a lot of improvement. I do believe this coaching staff knows what it's doing, and I like the guy as a person. All that. So if it's really, that's what Ira said. He's like, that comes into play, like how much we like Norvell as a person. I'm talking about the people that work with him or above him. If it's a tie, like tie goes to the runner.
Yeah.
If everything's close to equal, but you really do enjoy him as a human being and what he is, what he represents, the values that he has, the way he represents your university, you believe in him as a human being, then maybe that is that 1% that gets you to keep him for another year. Or he might say, look, he might give them the option. I brought this up. I don't think this is out of the realm of possibility. I will, if you give me a guaranteed 3 years, $15, $20 million, let's say 3 years for 20, Norvell goes to the administration.
Restructures.
I'm restructuring my contract. There will be no buyout, but I am here for 3 years. Give me these. Let's keep the roster where it needs to be. Let's keep this coaching staff intact. And then after that third year, if we reach these goals, we can hit some bonuses and some incentives. So you don't have to pay me $50 million to walk away. But for the betterment of the Florida State football, I will take a pay cut, maybe a substantial one, and let's use these resources. Because, again, it's not like Mike Norvell can't coach football.
Well, when he came here, Corey, he made less than Willie Taggart. Like, Willie Taggart had a contract. Mike Norvell signed at a number below that, quote unquote, betting on himself. So, you can talk about him diverting the money from his salary this year to help out with, the last, semblance of pay for play before House kicked into play. But I don't know how many people bet on themselves twice, but it doesn't seem crazy to do that, to your point. Go back, rework the contract. And I don't want to say that
would Florida State even want to do that? I don't know.
I don't know.
If you don't think he's the right guy, then what's the point?
Maybe he's not the right guy. What you're paying him, like you're not getting, the results. You're paying him one of the 5 highest paid coaches in the country, I think.
Yeah, it's certainly top 10.
Yeah, you're not there. So, let's pay you what you've earned, really, truly, the last 2 years, and then if we're in a cycle. We're going to be in a cycle where we're going to pay you what you've done. That's what happened in 2024. He got paid not for, obviously he was going to accomplish in the future. We were hoping, but he got paid because he won big in 23 and there was another suitor out there. So why can't we learn from our lessons from that and apply it? I want to ask you this, Corey, and this is a bit of a weird one, but just give me a pie chart. How much of it, you talk about Ty going to the runner, Ty going to the nice guy, but when they try to figure out and audit everything they want to audit on Mike Norvell, how much of the benefit of the doubt holding on to him is who else are we going to get that's better? How much of it do you think is a fear that he really is good? It's just been a weird set of circumstances, and the last thing we want to see is to fire him, pay him all this money to leave, and then in 4 or 5 years he's at a really good school and he's winning, and it's like we had him. Like it's kind of like letting, I don't want to say Bill Belichick slip through your fingers as a Browns fan, but something equally crazy like that.
Yeah, I don't know that he's Bill Belichick. But I understand what you're saying, and I don't even think it's the whole you don't want to see him somewhere else winning. I think it's more
not out of spite, but just like, dude, we had him and we let him go.
No, you had him and you lost him. No, but I don't think anybody would fault you. I think when you look at like Bill Belichick with I don't remember what his.
He was there for 5 years. He was there for 5 years. Made the playoffs.
He was the head coach
year
of the Browns.
Yeah, from 91 to 95.
And he only made the playoffs once.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Pete Carroll was at the Jets for 1 year, got canned. Then he was with the Patriots for 3 years. He made it to the playoffs in his first 2 seasons. He went 8-8. So he was 27-21 after 3 years with the Patriots pre-Belichick, and got to the playoffs 2 years. And then they're like, nope, not good enough.
Yeah.
And then he ends up going to the Seahawks 10 years later. He goes to USC, then he goes to the Seahawks, and he's a Hall of Famer now.
And Pete Carroll can coach.
Yeah.
I think it's more about if there's not a slant, if you don't have a plan in place, if you don't have a guy right now that you're thinking of, and look, man, Jeff brought this name up. He's like, because I was saying, like, I don't think you're firing him at 8-4, and I don't think you should. And Jeff's like, well, what if James Franklin said he'd come? I'm like, well, then Mike Norvell's fired. But short of that, Franklin's not a guarantee, by the way. at all. Sometimes there's cultural fits. He's more of a Northeastern guy. He's from Pennsylvania. I assume he would recruit really well in the state of Florida because he's James Franklin and he won at Vanderbilt. But I don't know. But
the floor is so much higher with him, though.
I agree. I don't think he would ever crash and burn and put together a roster like 2-10. Now, I know he had some weird COVID seasons, but other than that team was always competitive and sometimes elite. Certainly has elite talent, which is what I'm all about. Get yourself some flipping elite talent. But it's what helps Florida State more in 2026 and in 2027? Like I'm kind of looking short term. Like you go fire Mike Norvell after 6-6, and yes, I get it. It's 8-16. I get it. I know the 2024 counts. Just remove 2024 and just write it off as a crazy. It was an illusion. It didn't happen. It was a dream. It was a horrible dream. It didn't happen. You're firing a guy after going 6-6, and you're hiring what to do what in the short term. Is that better for Florida State football than riding it out with a guy who has won an ACC championship here, has got more talent on his roster than he's had? He seems to have maybe turned a corner when it comes to getting freshmen in here that can play. We do like elements of this coaching staff quite a bit. There has been a dramatic improvement. They're first in the country in total offense and like 8th in rushing. It's insanity compared to what it was. Yeah. It's unbelievable, really.
It is.
So if you look at that and you're like, okay, we're going to blow up the staff that did this. So we're taking Gus Malzahn is gone. Herb Hand is gone. Tony White is gone. Terrence Knighton's gone. They're all gone. You're paying all these guys. You're probably paying them in the neighborhood of $70 million in buyouts and everything else to not coach. Is that better for Florida State football in 2026 and 2027 than running it back with these guys and seeing what they can do with another year, with a full year together? Because they're getting punished for what happened in 2024. Well, this staff's only been together for a year, and they've improved the product dramatically. I know we can do wins and losses, right? Yeah. I know we can do wins and losses and say, well, have they? They're 4-4. Guys, you're watching the games. Go watch a condensed game of one of the 2024 Florida State games. It was just pathetic, honestly. It was a pathetic product. This is not that. It is a competitive product that's lost some really close games, but it's not a pathetic product. So I think that's the calculus, the word we love to use, is what's better for 2026 and 2027. Like if you fire Norvell, you can turn it around in a year. You can bring in somebody awesome, but what's a realistic goal with a brand new staff, and I mean a brand new staff and a brand new roster for 2026? You could have a Signetti turnaround. I'm not saying you couldn't. But do we not think if you gave Norvell a really good roster that he couldn't get you to a bowl or playoff contention? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just such a weird time, man. And I know I just jump from side to side and from one side of the fence to the other side of the fence. But I don't know what's best for Florida State. I do know this isn't it. And in my heart of hearts, I don't think Mike Norvell is the long-term solution. But it's not my money. And that is a lot of money to forfeit for someone not to coach, especially if you're looking at 2026 to be what, Aslan? I know we all want to go 11-1 and be in the playoffs every year. Yeah. But aren't you just kind of like looking for another tick up?
No, they got to go. They got to get the playoff next year. I mean, they run this thing back. They have to go to the playoffs next year.
No, I'm saying if you fired them.
Oh, right.
What are you looking for in 2026?
Yeah, you can't backslide. I mean, they finish 7-5.
You can, though, because the guy will have a
really tough schedule.
It's his first year, and it's a tough schedule.
I mean, I think it's an indicator, man. I really do. I get year ones are tough, and year one in COVID is even a degree, a level of magnitude of difficulty that's really tough to fathom, man. But I think year ones are indicative of who you're going to become. So you better not backslide. I mean, yeah, I would never. I don't think I would ever regret letting go of Mike Norvell. But, man, I would be...
Probably not. That's a good way to put it. I think that's a good way to put it. But I'm saying not even a backslide. Like, even if Norvell's ceiling for 2026 is 8-4 with that schedule, Well, that's probably, in my opinion, the ceiling of anybody who comes in to replace him in year one, with barely any time to put together a recruiting class or a coaching staff or a portal class. Like 8-4 seems like ceiling in year one. Again, it could just because of the schedule, man. And again, we don't know. We'll see if Notre Dame's any good in 2026. I'm assuming they will be, but they could fall off the cliff too. Who knows? Maybe Clemson's the new Wake. I don't know. It seems like those games will be difficult. But that's kind of what I'm talking about, where, like, you're going to fire a guy that goes 7-5. And that's a big if now. Because, again, as we sit here and talk about it, I think they have a better shot of going 4-8 than 7-5. I think they can lose all 4 easier than they can win 3 games on the road. Because this team doesn't win on the road, which is another indictment. But if they finish 6-6, 7-5, I just think the ceiling for that team is probably a little bit higher if you run it back than if you bring in somebody brand new. But that's not really everything that goes into question, is it? That's not all you're thinking about. What's better for this program in 2029 or 2030 or 2027? And again, does it go back to you need to start over quicker? He does not get a year 7 after stumbling so bad in year 5 and 6. Or do you think year 7 is going to be the breakout year and you're back to the Jordan Travis days?
I wonder if you have to look at, right now Oklahoma is 11th, which is interesting. They're ahead of Texas. If only those two would have actually played head-to-head to determine who's the better team. But, Oklahoma's 11th. They're 7-2. Utah is 7-2. They're 17th. And they went with we're hiring this offensive coordinator, and he's bringing his quarterback with him.
Yeah.
I think that probably helps, too. And I know
Yep.
I think Cignetti went and grabbed the quarterback from last year from elsewhere. I don't think he was a James Madison guy. So, I mean, yeah, there are these avenues that you can explore, I think, to give yourself a really good head start on a year one. But then, if you have an up and coming,
but it's not a guarantee, right?
Yeah,
it's not a guarantee. Yeah.
I mean, if you're Oklahoma, I mean, I don't know how many years you have with Ben Arbuckle. I mean, maybe 2 more years, maybe another season with Mateer. But if Arbuckle's really good, if you make it to the playoff this year with Oklahoma, and you guys are 8-1 in November next year, I mean, Ben Arbuckle's probably going to be floated as the next head coach at some pretty decent program. And then you lose him and you got to kind of start back all over. So it is interesting. I wish I did know that, what sort of board they're looking at in terms of who they legitimately think they could get. I mean, obviously it has to affect their thinking and what move they'll make. It's like looking at these guys like, all right, could we get Jeff Brom? Like, or no, would we have to get, I don't know, John Sumrall from Tulane? That actually wouldn't sound that. I would not hate that at all. I'm trying to think what names are out there.
That to me is.
Yeah,
it's
rebooted,
if you're going to hire
repackaged.
John Sumrall, or you're going to hire Golish from South Florida, or you're going to hire stick with Norvell another year.
Yeah,
just stick with Norvell another year. Don't do that. If you can go get me a Franklin, I'm all aboard. Jeff Brom, I'm all aboard. Rhett Lashley, I'm all aboard. I know he just signed that extension, but what does that even mean anymore? I'm all aboard all that. Or a coordinator that you just believe in, that you think has a real and can promise you some players, then maybe. But I'm not. I just wouldn't. I would not spend, because here's the thing: you're not just spending whatever you're spending on John Sumrall. You're essentially spending $100 million to hire John Sumrall.
Yeah,
that's what you're doing.
You're right.
Understand that. I would gladly do it for James Franklin. Not gladly, but I would do it, and I would do it for Jeff Brom. He's proven it in this conference. That dude can coach, and he can get players. Rhett Lashley can win in the ACC. We know that. We have no idea what Sumrall could fall flat on his face. He could be the next Brian Harsin. And remember, it's $50 million you owe Mike Norvell. It's probably another 20 that you owe all the coaches and the assistants and their buyouts, maybe 15. And then you have to go pay these new coaches. You're talking in the neighborhood of $90 or $100 million. So, yeah, go hire John Sumrall. You're spending $100 million to do it. And for what? He's the guy? He's the guy? Like, I know we all think we know who isn't the guy, but go get me someone who we have a much better idea could be the guy to turn this thing into an elite program again. So that's where this I just come back and forth to it, man. Like, I just wish he'd go win some effing games, Aslan, so it wouldn't be even be a conversation. I just wish he'd go win some effing games. If his team would play well on the road. That is a loud, man. That is a loud. The last time this team played well on the road was, Miami? In 2022? Is that the last good road game this team played? Like, I'm not counting that win at Clemson. Maybe the win at Wake in 23 when Keon had a couple of touchdowns. That was a good game. So they played well like twice on the road.
Wasn't a good Wake team. That was a 4-8 Wake team.
It was a really bad Wake team, but they dominated them.
Yeah.
Like they didn't against Boston College. And that was not a great Clemson team that they had to go to overtime against. A noon game.
With a kicker playing his first collegiate game
Yeah,
ever.
the kicker missed that kick. Yeah, that's why they won that game. It's like, man, go play well on the road and prove that you can start doing that again. If they go and lay another egg and they look rattled and they don't look good defensively and Clemson pushes them around and then that same thing happens at NC State, I don't think he's coaching against Florida. I don't think he's coaching. I think he could lose to Clemson, beat Virginia Tech, and beat NC State, and he might have the job. I think he needs to win one. Let me put it this way. This is my challenge to Mike Norvell. Get your team to win one of the next two road games. You better beat Virginia Tech, but you also absolutely have to either beat Clemson or NC State. You lose both those, I don't care what you do against Florida. You're done. Tired of this team looking like a different football team on the road. Enough of that. Go play well. And Clemson's going to be hard to beat. NC State is not hard to beat. NC State is a decent enough team, but they don't have NFL talent. They're not going to out-talent you like Clemson might. Clemson's got better players than you. And if they play well, they're going to beat you. NC State does not have better players than you. So I know that game's 2 games from now. He might not be the coach for that one. But I just wish he'd win some effing games, Aslan. Just go win some games. Give us something to believe in.
By the way, NC State's got to go down to Miami. Take on the Canes.
Yeah. Oh, and a wounded Canes team. And we're recording this before we know the college football playoff rankings. I assume Miami will be in the conversation somewhere, even with their 2 losses. They're going to see, we're not out of this yet. That's what they're going to be telling themselves.
It'll be interesting, what happens if Notre Dame takes care of business, both 10-2. Still think Notre Dame gets ahead of Miami, and I will not shed any tears.
It helps that USC looks like a pretty good team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that helps. And their other loss was to A&M, who's really good. Like, it wasn't to – if you look at the resumes, that's what they're going to say.
It's just crazy.
Yes,
so
we get it.
We got to get to Corner Pocket here in a sec, but like listening to James Williams, and I thought he was respectful about it, and he's allowed, they're allowed to – I don't think it was gloating, but I think it's allowed to point out, hey, you guys, the media, us, fans, everybody wants a microwave instant results, society, and that's just not the way football works. But like, people talk about Sharon Moore, like, oh man, Michigan's they really screwed up. Like that was a lazy hire. They're freaking cooked. They're washed. Man, they're 7-2. People are burying Lincoln Riley. SC is 6-2. They're still ranked. People were dancing on Brent Venables' grave. They're 7-2. They're 11th in the country. It's like 4 losses is a lot of losses when you enter the month of November. So I do feel that I don't think there's been an overreaction. We can say there's maybe been overly emotional about some things in the way we express it, but there's no way you should be happy with what things look like here right now, especially when everybody else is getting poked and made fun of, and you're like, Sark wants out of college football. He can't. They only have 2 losses. And one of their losses was week 1 at the defending national champions. Like, I thought Texas was on the outside looking in. Texas has like a 40% chance of making the playoff right now. 2 losses. That's fine. I'm not asking you to run the table.
Oh, if Texas wins out, they're they're in. It's different in the SEC. Obviously, you get more benefit. I think we'll see like Texas and Miami. Let's see what that looks like come December if they both are 10-2, and neither one plays in their conference championship game.
Going into last week, they had the All-State playoff predictor, and it was Texas, Vandy, and Miami were the 3 teams on the screen. And as before, obviously, Texas played Vanderbilt. Both Texas and Vanderbilt at that time had 1 loss, and Texas had 2 losses. Miami had 1 loss. They both were in the 40%. They both had like a 40% chance going into week 10 or whatever last week was. Miami was at 8%.
Yeah. which is crazy.
And they
that
beat
must
Notre
have been after
Dame.
their loss.
They beat Notre Dame. They beat, I know South Florida, I think, has dropped out of the polls here recently, but they got a couple of reasonable
Florida State
wins.
didn't help them. But hey, man, and they're not going to be in the ACC championship game, and I have a hard time, especially with 2 conference losses. I know I pick on the SEC all the time. I would have a hard time with Miami making the playoff, just like last year. They're in the exact same situation they were last year. They're on the outside looking into the ACC championship game. If you can't get to Charlotte, I just don't think you deserve to be in the playoff. And they didn't play a hard conference schedule, I don't think. Now, maybe they'll get credit if they beat Pitt in a couple of weeks, because Pitt might actually start getting ranked. But, they didn't have to play. They played a down Florida State team in the midst of a losing streak. Didn't have to play Clemson. Not that that's anything special this year. I think that but I understand the overall point. Yeah, man, it's not normal. I don't want to normalize not being in the conversation at Florida State again for the first college football playoff poll. He's only been in the conversation 1 year out of 6. And his team got screwed. I just mentioned literally like 9 or 10 guys off that team are starting in the NFL. But remember, it wasn't talented enough because the quarterback was hurt to get a chance to play that Michigan team. I don't know how many of their guys are starting in the NFL, but I assume it's a similar number. And I'm going to guess that Florida State has as many guys in the NFL right now starting as Alabama did, and neither one of their quarterbacks are starting. So whatever. But he's only been in the conversation once. And, yeah, you look around the country and you're like, man, it has to be better than this. It needs to be better than this. It has to be. I get it. It's just a matter of where do you want to spend your money, and what is the fix? What is the quickest fix? What is the best fix for Florida State? What makes the most sense financially? Is it just impossible for Mike Norvell to put together another good team at Florida State? Wasn't that long ago he had 19 wins in a row? Is it impossible for him, with this crew, with this coaching staff, to put together a winning football team? I don't think it is. But you don't just get to coach in perpetuity until you figure it out either. So, I don't even.
42 minutes.
The same things over again.
42 minutes of show before we even try to sell you something, everybody. We love you, folks. Hit the thumbs up for that. Name another podcast that goes 40 minutes without an ad. We just did that.
That's what we do. That's what we do, baby. That's what we do.
Tell a friend to go to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. You come to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. 2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website. You know there's lunch specials going down weekdays from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for only $8.99, entree and side dish. All awesome. The menu, even when it's not the lunch specials, awesome. Fantastic. The cheese curds. Corey speaks about the sausage bites. Our guy James B. also evangelizes about the sausage bites, the registers sausage bites. Ice cold drinks, cheap, affordable beer, everybody. Good stuff. I should say low cost beer, not cheap beer. It's good beer. It's what you get anywhere else, but it's going to be like $2 cheaper than anywhere else around campus, if you will, everybody. So go check out the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Why would you wander around a warehouse store looking for paint when you could just swing by your neighborhood Ace? In addition to Ace's award-winning service, we have top-rated paint brands. Plus, our color matching technology allows us to match any color. So stop wandering and start painting. Head to your neighborhood Ace today.
In Crawfordville, your home convenience store is Ace Home Center and NAPA Auto Parts, located at 2709 Crawfordville Highway. Hoops. Catch the fever, everybody. Light work for Luke Loucks and the men's basketball team last night against Alcorn State. 108-76 win. The alum wins his first career regular season game at the helm for the Seminoles program. Alcorn, not one of the stronger programs in the SWAC, so it's kind of hard to really know what we're working with here, but balanced evening. 5 guys in double figures, including a game-high 22 from Clemson transfer Chauncey Wiggins, who went 7 of 14 from the field. Corey was on to something the other day, everybody, when he talked about keeping an eye on Robert McCray the Fifth, which we got to figure out some kind of cool nickname for the Fifth. That's incredible. 17 assists. 17. He had 9 with like 6 minutes to go in the first half. Really confident ball handler. He also had 12 points and only 2 turnovers and 17 assists. That's incredible. Lejah Jones, 18-7. Alex Steen, one of your bigs, 12-6. Cam Miles added 10 points. 30 of FSU's 70 shots on the night were from behind the arc. They drained 13 of them. So 13 of 30 from 3. That's 43%. That's fantastic. They turned the Braves over. That's Alcorn State, by the way, everybody. And it's Alcorn. It's not Alcorn. It's Alcorn. Trust me, I know. I live in Mississippi. They turned over Alcorn 21 times. So the defensive piece coming along pretty decent. They clearly have an identity. They're really good on help defense. Again, one opponent. They're going to shoot the 3 ball. And they've got a guy like McCray that can bring the ball up the court and create a little bit if he has to. But he's also going to be able to distribute the ball really well. Great start. They've got this identity. They've got good pieces. It's a good start. Next up, another SWAC foe, Alabama State. That'll be Friday night, 7 p.m. at the Tuck. It'll be their season opener. The Hornets of Alabama. I think it's Alabama. They're the Hornets, right? No. Alabama State. Hold on. I got to find this out. I was in Alabama for like a year, everybody. Alabama State, Alabama A&M. I never get them right. So let's get this right. Yeah, the Hornets. Always go with your first instinct, kids. Crushed it. All right, next up. Larry Williams from Clemson Illustrated, or rather Tiger Illustrated, talking about Clemson football. There might be some people like, what was there so much about Clemson? I don't know, man. There's nothing to talk about when it comes to Florida State right now, man. We've talked about it all. Every single possible thing, which is this coach and what you're going to do with him if he wins this game and loses that game, but wins this one, but then loses those other ones. So let's look over the fence and realize things aren't that great over in Clemson, South Carolina either. Larry Williams talking about the Tigers with your boy. Welcome back in. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, warchantbogo, your promo code. We are joined by, dare I say, the best guy on the beat there for Clemson, up in Clemson, South Carolina. Tiger Illustrated's Larry Williams. You've heard him speak to Corey Clark throughout the years. Back when we were with Rivals, they're now part of the On3 network for about over a year now, I feel like, or maybe we're coming up on a year. Maybe summer marked the first time, right? I feel like we got everything lined up. So always good to catch up with Larry. Thanks for taking time out. Man, I really enjoyed your post-game column after the Duke loss for Clemson, entitled The Man Behind the Orange Curtain. And, we talked about this on the show yesterday, Corey Clark and myself, just about it almost feels like Mike Norvell's being granted more grace by this fan base. I don't know about the administration. I think so. But then Dabo Swinney, who's done incredible things for Clemson. And Mike Norvell has not met that greatness sort of threshold. Just where is this collective fan base right now in the Dabo Swinney experience, do you think, Larry?
Yeah, I don't know. Boy, I guess I don't know. I'm not boots on the ground down in Tallahassee, so I don't really know how much grace the Noel fan base is giving him. I'll say this year, what makes I think what brings a lot of the criticism from the fan base is this was supposed to be the year that Dabo put a stamp on his model, and that they sort of certified themselves as being, a program fit for this new era, right? Like they retained so much talent from the team last year that gave Texas some fits in the first round of the playoff, and the one that won the ACC championship over SMU. They spent lots of money, 4 millionaires on the roster, Cade Klubnik, Antonio Williams, Peter Woods, TJ Parker. I mean, back in August, it was the biggest sort of thing that Clemson folks were fretting about was, gosh, what if they lose to LSU? There was no thought of 3-5. I mean, it's apocalyptic around here. And I'll be clear. I don't think there are many fans saying that Dabo, they need to fire, Clemson needs to fire Dabo. It's more Dabo's got to get a handle on this thing and, get rid of some coaches, maybe modernize his support staff, his very large support staff. I think that's really where they are. I think most everyone is just stunned, because before the season, again, the great expectations of this season, a disappointing season that was defined as like maybe 10-2, 9-3, and here they are with 5 losses. It's one of the worst seasons. It's the worst season here in decades, I think. I mean, Dabo has been mentioned in 2010. I think with some of their ineptitude in certain areas, I think you have to go back further. It's just pretty stunning.
Well, because to your point, man, it's about expectations, right? I don't know what the expectations really were in 2010, but the expectations going into this season was, as a Florida State fan, media member, like you're looking at the schedule and you're like, man, that's a loss. Like you're going up and playing Clemson in Death Valley. You can't feel very confident about a win there, but, reading your column, I didn't realize just how far back these struggles have gone at Memorial Stadium for Clemson. It doesn't even make sense, it seems like.
Aslan, in late 2022, they beat Miami at home 40-10, late November. It was their 40th straight win at Death Valley. And back then, it's like, I remember, it just sort of goes to show you how you just sort of get so sort of, I guess, accustomed to great streaks and greatness overall that in the moment you're just sort of, oh yeah, 40 straight wins. Okay, that's impressive, whatever. Like Florida State fans probably experienced that in the 14 straight years under Bobby Bowden, that dynasty from 87 to 91 or whatever it was. It's like the trends and the great stats and the trophy case, all that stuff just stacks up to the point where it's like, oh, by the way, 40 straight wins. Well, anyway, my point is the next week they lose at home to South Carolina in stunning fashion. Stunning fashion back then. So since then, against power conference opposition, they are 7-8 at Death Valley, and they've lost 6 straight. They have not won a power conference game at home in more than a year. It was October of 24 against Virginia. It's just it's stunning. And then also they had a 36-game winning streak over unranked teams that ended in 2021 when NC State beat them in Raleigh. And the wins over unranked teams, like that's where you want to be, right? Winning the games you're supposed to win. It's so hard to do that nowadays. Well, since that loss in Raleigh, they've lost 18. They have 18 total losses. 10 of those 18 are to unranked teams. So, including the last 2 at home to Duke and SMU. And granted, Duke and SMU might end up being ranked. They're pretty good teams, but it's just I think Dabo has pushed every button imaginable, probably reminiscent of Norvell last year, like where things just keep getting lower and lower and lower, and I think he's just been at a loss. And so I think there's going to be major change after this season for sure. And I think another thing probably reminiscent of Tallahassee this time last year is I think people are more focused on after the season than they are the season itself, the present day, because it's like, there are going to be monumental things happening in December and January as it relates to reshuffling, maybe the term's a total rebuild, I guess, in some ways with the staff and the support staff and all that.
It's just crazy to me because, what I talk about down here in Tallahassee with Florida State and Mike Norvell is, what are the other options, the other conditions to which he can operate under that make you feel very optimistic about moving forward? I think it kind of applies to Dabo too, Larry, because from the outside, granted those first few years, a little bit of a struggle. He goes out, gets Chad Morris, goes and gets Brent Venable. So he goes outside the tree and gets these big shot guys. Then he starts promoting from within. He's got his own coaching tree starting to kind of bloom up. That didn't work out all that great with Wes Goodwin and Brandon Streeter. So then he goes and gets, Garrett Riley. He goes and gets Tom Allen. He goes and gets Matt Luke. So it's like you've seen Dabo use his hard scrapped, homegrown guys as his coaches. Then you've seen them spend millions upon millions of dollars to go get the hottest name possibly out there. And that roster looks really good, Larry. So I do wonder, you talked about reshuffling maybe the personnel and the support staff. I guess that's part of it, but I just do wonder, what are the other buttons really left to push for Clemson fans? And I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that Dabo Swinney is done in Clemson or should be done in Clemson. But I just wonder, what's Dabo 3.0 going to possibly look like?
I mean, I think you just nailed the big question, and sort of the predicament is that, for all the heat that Dabo has gotten about not adapting this and that, portal, staff, all that. I mean, the fact is entering this season, hypothetically, if they were having a good season right now, the season that they hope for, it would be a validation, sort of a hybrid validation of his old ways fused with him adapting. Like you said, one of the biggest knocks on him was, you promoted from within. Wes Goodwin, that was the most outside the box hire you could think of to replace Brent freaking Venables. There were other assistants, Brandon Streeter, Thomas Austin. He did adapt. He did go outside. And so over the last 3 to 4 years, the solutions have been or have seemed a lot more obvious than they are now. Okay. So in 2022, it was, all right, this offense is just really floundering with DJ Uiagalelei. Get rid of Brandon Streeter, go hire the top guy in the market. And that was Garrett Riley, who had just helped TCU get to the national title game. Matt Luke, I mean, that was a slam dunk. Being able to pull that guy out of his sabbatical, Luke chose Clemson, I think, as much as Clemson chose him. So all these boxes are checked. And then, oh, by the way, this past offseason, he goes into the portal, not just to get one guy, not just two, but three. And so I say all that to come back to, here they are at 3-5, and it's all right, you're past all those sort of seemingly obvious moves that needed to be made. Now it's a lot more abstract. It's a lot harder to sort of identify. And if, I have people asking me all right, what's the top 5 things you would do? And I'm just like, man, I don't even, I don't know where I would start. I think I would probably start by addressing the support staff. It is a very large support staff. It's huge. I think the money they spend on that, on their total staff, just support staff, I think it's right there with Ohio State and Georgia. So a top 3 in money allocated. The common thread there, though, is all 3 of those coaches, Dabo, Kirby Smart, and Ryan Day, have been around a long time. And so they've had that time to sort of layer on, needed things they thought they needed on their support staff. But here we are, and it's a new era. This support staff was built under a different model, okay? And so I think you could make the argument it needs to be sleeker, obviously a lot more on player personnel, on evaluation and such. And so I think I would maybe examine, all right, are there 8 to 10 to 12 positions within the support staff that maybe, I don't want to say obsolete, but just not as important as they might have been under the previous model. I know I'm getting in the weeds here. I mean, this is pretty, I guess, going kind of deep on it.
Well, that's the thing, though, right, Larry? Because as we mentioned, the coaching aspect of it, they've addressed that. He has gone into the portal and adapted. So it's what are the other, what other ripcord can you possibly pull when you find yourself kind of in free fall?
I would say also player evaluation is I already mentioned that, but
I like this roster. Larry, I love this roster 3 months ago. I mean, TJ Parker, Peter Woods, as you mentioned, Klubnik, a slew of wide receivers. I know the running game really hasn't been there. Maybe the offensive line hasn't played up to the standard they were expecting. But then, Avian Terrell in the secondary, there's good pieces there, man.
There are lots of good pieces, some supposedly high-end pieces that even the NFL folks loved, right? So that wasn't just coming from inside the bubble here. No. But you mentioned running back. You mentioned offensive line. Another, safety, okay? Coming into the season, Dabo, I asked him about safety pretty regularly because I was hearing from the inside, they're pretty concerned about the back end. They lost R.J. Mickens from last year. Khalil Barnes had a hamstring injury that kept him out of almost all of camp. And so you're thrusting in some really inexperienced guys. Well, Dabo at the time said, oh, man, we got dudes back there. We got 5 guys who, could start, and I feel really, really good about all those guys. And I'm not saying that to as like to ridicule him or to call him out, but the fact is his safety has been terrible this year, terrible. And so I have picked up from what I've gathered, Dabo now is saying, okay, we got to go get 2 safeties out of the portal, multiple safeties out of the portal, I think is what I've picked up this coming off season. The question, I think a legitimate question, is that a year too late? Should he have done that last year? You have an offensive line, could you have used a couple of offensive linemen? Running back, Adam Randall, a converted receiver, is your starting running back coming in the year. And at the beginning, Gideon Davidson, really highly regarded freshman, David Eziamume, really kind of weren't ready early in the year. So you could make an argument they could have / should have gone and got somebody back out of the portal. I guess what I'm saying is, as we're talking about modernizing the approach of college, making it look more like the NFL, Dabo has brought in Kevin Kelly, a GM type from from the Chargers. He came in last February, okay? And so really the roster was set by then. So, I mean, he really couldn't do a whole lot as it related to this year's roster. So, but as I look to, long-term to after this season and toward next year, you're asking me for solutions or whatever. I mean, I think Dabo should maybe defer a good bit more of the evaluation part. And maybe he already is planning to do that, for all I know. I'm just saying Dabo has always played a pretty integral role in, oh man, this guy can play. I really believe in this guy. Okay. And so in the previous model, that doesn't hurt you as much, but in this model, it kind of does, because your consideration of the portal, the main thing that drives that is your consideration of what you have. And so if you think that this unproven safety is going to be a stud, or if you think you're okay at that position, then you're like, no, we don't need to go to the portal. Then that has a pretty profound effect. I'm kind of rambling here, but that just sort of, I think they need to rethink a good number of things, some major changes. And I wrote something else a couple of days ago, with coaches, you have to read between the lines of what they say and what they don't say. I think reading between the lines, listening to Dabo's tone, there's some major change coming. I've been around that guy a while, and you don't really have to be a historian or a master of reading body language to pick up that, okay, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting December.
Come join the fun over at Underdog Fantasy Sports. It's as easy as picking higher or lower, yes or no. Pick one player from a boatload of games, or if you're focused on one game, just be sure to pick at least one player from both teams. So if you're dialed in on FSU Clemson, you'll have to pick a Tiger, just one, in addition to your Noles. Quick hit here, folks. We're going to go CJ Carr from Notre Dame over 240.5 versus Navy. Figure the middies are going to sell out to stop the run. Lots of opportunities in the air, we would think. Lower, DJ Lagway, 231.5 passing yards. They're at Kentucky. Road game. Stoops coming off a win. Lower. And Julian Sayin in Ohio State. Lower on 295.5 passing yards. That's a big number. It's on the road. Purdue. Hype lights are getting really hot. And Barry Odom's a decent defensive coach, so we'll go lower. That's a 6-1 payout or 3-1 payout flex. That gives you a mulligan in case I get one of these wrong. Download the app today and sign up with promo code WARCHANT to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code WARCHANT. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks, win money. Underdog Fantasy Sports must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 and older in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Tell you what. Stop with this clock moving nonsense that might change over my political affiliation. I'm half kidding, but also the time change makes these days darker and longer, and life keeps moving along fast. And as busy as ever with the holidays approaching, I hope you're doing well. Let's check in on our friends and make sure they are as well. BetterHelp can help. BetterHelp has assembled quality therapists, and they're committed to matching you with the right therapist so that you can meet your goals. This month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/warchant. That's betterhelp.com/warchant. That clip of Dabo in the second quarter against Duke, last kind of big picture question before he kind of hammer down a little bit more micro and go over maybe some matchups, Larry. But that clip of him in the second quarter, kind of lighting up into the defense, got picked up on Twitter and kind of went crazy. Some of the body language from the players didn't look all that positive and uplifting. We heard some of that on Florida State side of things during their loss against Stanford. They came back out like gangbusters though against Wake Forest. From what you're hearing, losing the team, is that a concern, or do you think Dabo and the staff still have a firm grasp? Now, listen, Tom Allen, Garrett Riley, Dabo, that's a triumvirate of really good coaches that I think pretty much garner anyone's respect when they walk into a room. Is there any concern there could be some slippage in terms of guys, checking out or not feeling as energized and, confident as they once did?
Losing the team is such a murky, hard to define and also hard to recognize thing, I could argue, I'm not making the argument, but just for the sake of this topic, you could argue that maybe he already lost some players because all the bust the secondary had against SMU and Duke, they weren't focused. They weren't getting the calls like they, should have. I'm not saying that was the case. And then Florida, I think things can turn in a hurry if you get some confidence and momentum, and like with Florida State last week. Wake really was, playing poorly early, and that was just enough for Florida State to pounce and get some confidence rolling. And so, I honestly, on the topic of sort of the locker room and the players between the ears, I think the most the highest impact sort of event has already happened, and it was losing to LSU. I think the whole team, you could almost see their confidence draining when things were not going the way they planned in that game. There was so much put on that opener. There was so much pressure on them. There were so many. The spring and summer, it was the summer of Clemson love, man. Everybody but Oprah Winfrey had Clemson as their number one team, and Cade Klubnik as a Heisman candidate. And when you have that much love and all those accolades coming off a season that wasn't that impressive, right? They still did lose to Texas by 2 touchdowns. They still did lose to South Carolina at home, a devastating loss last year. They still did get circles run around them by Louisville at home last year. They still did get curb stomped by Georgia in the opener. My point is, when you introduce great expectations to all the money they're now making and the profile and the celebrity, and then, oh, by the way, what have they really achieved other than the ACC championship last year? And I'm not trying to minimize that, but I'm just saying, in these big, monster games between top 10, I kind of gotta have to laugh when you say top 10 programs, because LSU's, currently looking for a coach and Clemson is nowhere near the top 10. My point is, it felt like at the first sign of things not going their way early in that game, you could just see shoulders sort of slump, like, oh boy, Cade Klubnik doesn't look like we thought he was going to look. He looks like a deer in headlights. And then, oh boy, LSU's offense is going up and down the field. Anyway, this is really long-winded, but I think that has been the most defining sort of event this season as it regards to whether you're losing a team. I don't want to call it that. I just want to say the belief in the drive, I guess. They were shaken. They were shaken after that loss, and it certainly the evidence of that was clear the next week when they were down 16-0 at home to Troy. And it really hasn't, aside from 2 blowout wins at North Carolina and Boston College, it's been more of the same. And then even in the win over Boston College, Cade Klubnik on a meaningless, the game's already won, and he runs what looked to be either a quarterback draw or some sort of RPO and gets crunched near the goal line and high ankle sprain. And so that has had some significant effects too, because I think had he played against SMU, they would have had a better chance to win that game. So anyway, that's where I am. I mean, could they all mail it in and be more disconnected than they have been? It's possible. But I think at night against Florida State, you see the spear on the side of the helmet. Probably a good crowd. Maybe a similar dynamic to what Florida State felt last Saturday at night. Not that Wake Forest is, typically the helmet that's going to get you going. But after they spent that, they had an open day. 2 weeks.
I had to wear that for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Hearing about how bad they were and how bad the locker room was, and players are laughing at Mike Norvell or whatever it was. It's like, all right, they still have some fight left in them.
Do you think the secondary's got any fight left in them, Larry? I remember I remember watching the Syracuse game, and I'm like, they just keep getting open. Like no one's getting home. And Jelly had like a clean pocket, it seemed. I mean, I'm looking at some of these PFF numbers, and I know Florida State fans aren't over the moon about the defense and the pressures they've created. They've had 139 pressures, the Florida State defense, 26 sacks. Clemson's had 129 pressures, only 24 sacks. But how much of what's happening bad on the back end is a result of things not happening in terms of disrupting the pocket, or is it a lot of the secondary just not being able to recognize their assignments and their alignment?
Yeah, I thought against Duke they had good pressure with their front four. Didn't really have to blitz, and it was just pure bust. It wasn't like having to cover for too long, right? Against SMU, it was interesting. SMU used max protections early. They protected a lot with 7, and so it was 4 against their 7, and Clemson wasn't getting home. And then you could almost see Tom Allen getting frustrated and just saying, screw it. He started bringing max blitzes, leaving his guys secondary in man coverage. And then that's not a good situation because these guys, Clemson's they're not fast enough in general. You can't cover. They can't use as much man as Tom Allen wants to because they're not, according to what he says, they're not fast enough. So I'll also say this, though. Kevin Jennings and Darian Mensah, back-to-back games, those are two darn good quarterbacks statistically and also situationally. I mean, those are some clutch passers. Just really impressed with both of those guys. But, man, when you're playing SMU and Kevin Jennings is basically playing on one leg after aggravating an ankle injury early, there's really no excuse, although Miami's probably saying the same thing right now because they fell victim to that as well. But what I would be most worried about in the secondary wise with this matchup is simply how much attention he draws just from his legs. Florida State can run the ball, obviously, top 10 statistically, and just all the different actions and things that play with your eyes. That's been a big problem with this secondary, is having their eyes in the wrong places. So yeah, that'd be, and I don't think Castellanos is nearly the downfield thrower as the previous two, Mensah and Jennings, were. But he showed against Wake, hey, man, he can, with Deuce getting open in those zones, Castellanos is good enough to find him and to do damage if you're not being sound and if your eyes are in the wrong places and you're out of position.
Offensively, I mean, I didn't realize. I know he got hurt against Boston College. I didn't realize it was that significant of an injury that could be possibly a high ankle sprain. But I mean, Cade Klubnik and the offense looked pretty strong against Duke. I know they've lost Brian Westcott, but they still have Antonio Williams and TJ Moore and some weapons out wide. I mean, what's the confidence level that the offense can? I don't want to say replicate, but what we saw or what they did against Duke might be kind of closer to their baseline than some sort of random one-off knocking their head against some ceiling they're not going to be able to get close to again this year.
I think they feel like what they saw against Duke is something they can build on simply because the offensive line performed and they ran the ball some, right? So previous to that, they couldn't run it a lick against SMU. They ran it for 35 yards, really got away from it. Aside from Boston College and North Carolina, actually they didn't run the ball against North Carolina. Aside from that, they just really haven't run the ball well at all. And so against Duke was the first time, and I was surprised because I was thinking, okay, they're going to struggle running the ball, and then they can't protect because Duke's defensive ends are pretty darn good. And then Cade Klubnik can't really move. And so that's it felt like a recipe for disaster to me. And I think even Dabo Sweeney acknowledged being worried about that. But lo and behold, they were able to protect. And I think it started with establishing the run early. And so, it's just is amazing how much better your offense can look when you can run the ball consistently. It just sets up so much and makes so much easier. But I would still, Cade, a high ankle sprain, that's not something that resolves itself usually during the season. Interestingly, though, I thought Cade, his injury might have been like a governor, like a positive governor on some of his,
tendencies to want to just run and cut loose, right? Like stay in the pocket.
His jumpiness, so to speak. He actually looked more methodical because he had to be, because he couldn't just take off when the first sign of trouble. And so he was just he just looked more in control. And I think it just really that like the running game certainly was what helped, but also I just think he just looked like he was able to take a deep breath and go through progressions and just more methodical. And so, will that continue Saturday? I'm not sure. I'm still trying to get a read on Florida State's defense and just how does Clemson's offensive line match up with Florida State's front? And I don't know as far as Florida State's pressure and all that. Don't really know. I know Dabo
hasn't been great, Larry. And yeah. I don't even think the staff knows what team's going to show up. I mean, I don't know if they think they're going to get the team that walloped Alabama and beat Wake, or the team that kind of cowered against Miami and Stanford. So it is an interesting kind of matchup. I know, again, I like Matt Luke. It seems like they have a really experienced offensive line, but Florida State's defense right now, Darrell Jackson's just going to command a double team, and it's going to be up to guys like James Williams to kind of get home. And he's the guy they brought in from Nebraska, and finally got a sack after a long sort of drought. So they're hoping that it's going to start coming in bunches for them. But yeah, I mean, it's just going to be interesting. Both teams, I don't know how really Florida State probably comes into this game with a little bit better headspace. But, being at home and everything that I'm sure Clemson fans are consuming media-wise, fan-wise, just about how everyone is down on them, I'm sure they're going to come out really inspired. And we'll see if whoever lands the first punch, it'll be interesting to see who lands the first punch and how that team that absorbs it responds, because both these teams probably could maybe cower up and not come out and respond. So we'll see. It'll be an exciting one. 7:30, Memorial Stadium, Clemson, South Carolina. They call it Death Valley still, everybody. Even though Larry said that it hasn't been that spooky of late. Larry Williams from Tiger Illustrated joining us. He's been doing this for a long, long time. Check them out. They're on the On3 Network. You remember, you can go over there and see what they're up to. Larry, thanks so much for your time, man.
Yes, sir. Enjoyed it.
All right, that is a wrap for us. Again, that was a long one. I'm not going to apologize. I apologized earlier. I won't do it again. All right, live show 6 p.m. Jeff Cameron show 1 to 4 p.m. Mike Norvell, 11:35 a.m.-ish. We'll get Mike and a player or two maybe after practice later this morning. And then Thursday, we will do a mailbag for your Friday program because the live show, as we all know, acts as the following day's show. So there it is. That's the schedule. It has been done. Warchant Report powered by Cummins, also probably dropping on a Thursday. You already knew that. All right, that's a wrap for us. Thanks to Larry Williams again for hopping on. And for Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, warchantbogo, your promo code.